weirdest space. I can second that. I don't even know what I just heard. Well, I know what I just heard. Um, wow, people have
I mean, we're just waiting at this point, right? I mean, we enough. We had enough with guessing and whatnot. We just want to see it.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
someone did DM me and they said um, the spinning thing was a wheel cover for the new Model 3 base model. And they're going to do a Model Y standard and a Model 3 standard. So I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, people just DM me stuff. You don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe they're just, an idiot who's just making stuff up. We'll find out tomorrow.
exactly. Tomorrow will be interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Imagine
tomorrow. Sorry,
Wolf
go
will
ahead.
have to do a 5 hour space tomorrow.
It's
Sawyer's
our
doing it.
midnight. It's your 11 p.m. My midnight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh man, you guys are gonna have to stay up late.
I mean, I
yeah.
think it's worth it this time, and I don't work anymore, so I can do whatever I want.
I mean, that is great, but I it'll be interesting to see you stay up to midnight.
I can do it. Let's try to say hello to DVS. I sorry, I don't know how to say your name.
Yeah, that's correct. Um, so the headlights are matching with the affordable model, right? So I'm 90% sure it is. But if they are not able to reduce below 36 or like below 30, yeah, below 36, then there is no point of the event. Like if it was a like a cheaper Cybertruck, like 5,000 reduction or 6,000, they wouldn't do a event, right? So either it's a like a drastic reduction on the standard models, or they are making it a big deal because they're going to do two things, maybe Roadster 2 unveil and affordable model is what I'm thinking.
Well, thank you for the take.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that people are more hung up on the price of what it's gonna be. I just think that it's gonna be interesting.
What do you think?
I just think it's gonna be interesting to see what the payments are because that's what
I saw a lot of videos, from all the guys on YouTube. It seems like that's the only thing they care about, and obviously we can understand why. Obviously, so like I think Farzad was around the 45,000 range. Um, I don't know what's considered cheap nowadays.
I think it just matters about that monthly payment. And that's all that really matters. If that monthly payment, the people want to see $300 a month. So
Yeah, I guess.
That would be a killer if it is 300. Yeah.
I mean that's
Because
Yeah, Divyash, sorry, how you say your name?
deviation. Yeah.
Divyash, are you in the United States or where are you from?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool,
I'm
cool.
in
Do
Washington.
you drive a Tesla?
Yes.
What do you drive?
Model Y.
The new one
Hardware
or the
3.
legacy?
Hardware 3, the 2022.
So okay, so are you waiting for something new, something more affordable, or you just curious about the news?
Oh no no! I'm just about thinking about Tesla stock. What would basically
Okay,
drive momentum, right? So,
cool. So
um,
thank you for joining.
yeah.
Okay.
yeah, no, I mean
Uh,
I think that at the end of the day, most people aren't paying cash for cars. Most buyers don't pay cash for cars. So really what it comes down to, like at if it's $35,000 and that car payment is still 650, 700 a month, they're not buying it. That's really what matters.
how do you get
2025 is interesting.
how do you get it to 300 a month then for leasing?
Well, that's the thing. I think you'll see a lot more leases, and that's going to be up to Tesla to see what they're going to make the pricing on the leases and what that's going to cost Tesla. Because that's what it ultimately comes down to get those special financing rates or to get a lease down so low that ultimately Tesla has to, the manufacturer has to pay for that, not Tesla, but the manufacturer has to pay for that. They have to buy down the financing rates. So it's just going to be interesting to see how they navigate this. And I mean, obviously, we want to see a $30,000 car. Like, I think that would be fantastic for the stock. If they get something right around the 30,000, whether it's 31,000 or 29,000, honestly, I don't think it really makes a difference. Anything around that price range would be absolutely phenomenal for the stock. But at the end of the day, it's still going. How many are they going to move of it? If again, if someone is paying 600-700 bucks a month because that's what the financing, that's what the interest rates are. They're not buying a $30,000 car if they can't afford that payment.
So you think the stock will go up tomorrow? Because today it seems to me like a lot like buy the rumor. I'm just saying.
I mean, I don't speculate on. I'm not one that watches the stock daily unless I'm getting ready to make some moves. Um, I'm definitely much more a long-term investor as far as the majority of my portfolio, and so I don't really. To answer your question, I honestly don't care. Like, I'm sure today the stock's probably up because people are hyped and, there's people buying on this news that they think that it's going to be, a $29,000 car or whatever. I'm sure there's probably some run up on it. And tomorrow, probably when they actually unveil what it is, there'll probably be another sell off, just like normal. But honestly, I don't care either way.
Did anyone in sorry, did anyone order the new bag, the Cybertruck bag, the new one, like tough exterior, the new one, new design that they came up with?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
So there's a new bag.
I was very tempted to buy it, but it's just a little bit small for some of the things that I carry around on a regular basis.
So
I do like the design though.
So thank you for answering. Is it like a good bag for like a carry on or like for travel? Like like people ask me if they should buy it and I should like bring it to them, and I'm trying to on the website it's not really clear if it's like good for travels or like what is it good for?
Yeah, so it's a really good size for a carry-on. It'll fit underneath the seats of pretty much any plane. So it is a good size for that. For me, I held back because it's just a little bit too small to hold
Your
my drone
swords.
equipment.
Could somebody post that up top, please?
Yeah, but my joke was that it's too small for your swords, right?
The swords, a few small kitchen knives, maybe.
Okay, Smokey, I will try to.
How are they going to cut a third of the cost out of this thing, right? I mean,
And even the
go
Model 3's in the 40s on the base model, right?
right. I mean,
Yeah, it's like same prices.
I'm not sure this quote unquote new more affordable model is really going to be any cheaper than, the prices we've bought Teslas at in the past. But it used to be obviously makes it more affordable, but I mean, you go back to their earnings deck, they said we, you know, let me actually pull it up, but they said something about less cost reduction than initially planned, but we're going to get it to market faster or something like that. Let's see, per shareholder deck cost. Um, yeah, here we go. Um, Our focus remains on prudently growing plans for new vehicles that will launch in. Well, anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I mean, like the rumored price for the Model Y standard was like, 40,000. Um, if they could hit like 35,000, I think that would be a pretty good price point. 30,000 would be like incredible. They've never sold a Tesla that low before. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about a car that's essentially pretty similar. It's got a similar form factor, similar materials. They cut out on the light bar on the middle, but I could see them maybe cutting, you know, you think back to what they say, it's a game of pennies. We're fighting to cut pennies out of this thing. Um, I'm not sure if they have $15,000, remove the glass roof, cloth seats, whatever. Um, a few $1,000s, maybe $15,000. I don't know.
No, Omar, I agree with you. My whole point is if it's 30 or 40, it's ultimately comes down to what's that monthly payment. And 30,000 even on a 60-month loan, if that interest rate is, 5, 6, 7%, that's going to price a lot of people out at 30,000.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Obviously, people care about what the monthly payment is, not what the cost of the car is. But Tesla, doesn't really have full control. They can, they can have financing offers and stuff like that, but ultimately the interest rates are going to be sort of up to Powell. What they do have control over is lowering the cost of the car and setting the price at a low point. But honestly, if I were Tesla, you think about how they introduce all their other vehicles. For example, when they introduce the new Model 3 or the new Model Y, they usually start off by, introducing vehicles at a high price and then lowering it over time, um, as they kind of ramp up production and costs fall. And then that kind of helps offset the high initial ramp costs. I mean, in this case, it's already Model Y, so maybe they don't need to do that. Maybe they can just start at the lower price. But it might make sense from a business perspective to start the price a little bit higher and then drop it over time as you ramp up and continue to grind cost out of the thing.
Yeah. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. We're going to get something new, though. That's for sure. Yeah. And just to be fair, I don't think that they're releasing this thing for 30 grand. Like, like you said, Omar, you pointed out exact reasons why. I don't even think it's possible for them to do that unless they're coming out with something that's like a 200-mile range car or even possibly lower than that, which I don't think they will.
Yeah, what's the average price of a new car in the United States right now? It's above $40,000, right?
I think it was like hovering right around the last time I looked, it was like $39,000, and it does about a year ago. I haven't. You know what? Let me find out for you.
Hey, you guys, I'll just hop in here really quick. Just want to share a couple quick thoughts. So I believe that they got to have it in the 30s, but I think it's going to be high 30s, mid to high 30s. If you look at some of the main competition that vehicle is going to be competing against, it's going to be against a vehicle similar to like a RAV4 Prime, which is a plug-in hybrid. Obviously, it's not as compelling as a Model Y, which is fully electric, but that vehicle starts in the low 40s, I believe around $45,000. So if they can undercut that vehicle by about $5,000, then you have a very compelling case on your hands, compiled with all the rest of the features and benefits of owning a Tesla, like the app and like mobile service and all the rest of it. But the other thing to consider is that I believe Tesla's kind of torn apart the Model Y and sort of reapproached it in sort of a completely new way. So rather than going for, hey, let's make the most feature packed vehicle that we can possibly make for the lowest price, I think they're actually going to go for not only the lowest price, but I think they're going after value. This is going to be the Model Y value. And so what does value say to me? So been asking myself this, and I'm like, okay, well, you got to have decent product for the money. And there's a lot of things that people will give up in order to get value. You know, even when you go to a value grocery store, maybe you're bagging your own groceries and you're buying no name brand, but you're still getting your essentials. You're not going to miss a meal by shopping for value-based groceries. And so contrast that to the automotive world where, you know, you're still going to get seats, but they're going to be cloth seats and that sort of thing. But what I think they're also going to do is they're going to provide unprecedented value in lower service and lower cost of operation. And what I think is coming, and I'd be willing to bet the farm, is a very efficient vehicle, is a crazy efficient vehicle, because people who are buying a cost-conscious vehicle are looking, they're going to be concerned with, what's this thing going to cost me to run? And if they have the lowest cost to run, or one of the lower cost to run EVs out there, then that's going to even further enhance the value proposition of this vehicle. So that's kind of the way I look at it, is what are they giving as far as value, and not just the vehicle tangibly itself, but overall the experience of owning it, servicing it, and operating it.
Yeah, so according to Kelly Blue Book, as of late 2025, the average selling price of a new vehicle in the United States is around $49,000, which is why a lot of people can't buy new cars anymore. Um, $49,000 is like a year's salary for a lot of people in the United States. But I think the interesting thing to look at is the relative gap between the average selling price of a new car in the United States and what Tesla's offering. When Tesla unveiled the $35,000 Model 3 in 2017, it was around the average price of a new car sold in the United States. So you can think of it as around 100% of the average. So, obviously, when we talk about an average, most people are buying cars that are cheaper than that. There's some people buying cars that are more expensive than that. That's pushing the average up. So if they were to hit even $35,000 for, say, the Model 3 standard, um, then I think you're actually looking at about 70% of the average selling price of a new car in the United States. In other words, it's actually now, 30% below the average. So the price may be the same, but we have to remember $2025 are not, 2018 dollars. That's actually a vehicle that becomes significantly cheaper than the average new vehicle on the lot and starts, I think, coming into consideration for a lot of people. And it is actually interesting. If you remember the early days of the Model 3 ramp, the they kind of got the Model 3 SR Plus to $38,000. And there was supposed to be a Model 3 standard range. And it was going to have cloth seats and, you know, reduced features. And I think they ended up making like what, a few of those? It was very short-lived.
Yeah.
And then they
Software
stopped
locked
making it.
battery.
Yeah, so it's almost like they've come full circle with that $35,000 Model 3 with cloth seats um here in 2025.
I mean, Omar, so literally, as you said, as you found the numbers, I was literally just like double checking the numbers that I found because I can't believe, first of all, that the average new car is like $49,000. I found the same thing you did. I can't believe that. So,
Yes.
which,
Joe Nation, if I could just quickly add the fact that pretty much every single auto manufacturer has gotten rid of all vehicles for sale below 20 grand. At or below 20 grand, they're all gone.
yeah, it's so. First of all, the average new car price is disgusting. I mean, we know that this has been an issue because, like you said, Omar, people just can't. There's a lot of people that just cannot afford to buy a new car. They're looking at a used car, which I actually did a second search on because that's what now we're talking used car market. The average used car price is above 25 grand. So there's not even a big gap between, at least for me, I don't think $20,000 is necessarily a big gap between a used car versus a new car. And with that being said, Tesla's got the Model Y long range is already priced below the national average by $4,000, $5,000 almost. So
So the reason why used cars are so expensive is fundamentally spurred on by COVID. So when all the factories shut down, there was a huge gap where there was no production. And then we went into this wave of massive demand. And then again, there was massive shortages with chips and all the rest of it. So not only did the factory shut down, but then they had massive demand, which sucked all the reserves dry. And then we went into a massive chip crisis amongst other, it wasn't just chips. Chips is what got all the news, but there was a massive amount of other parts shortages. You know, just ask Stan Monroe, he'll tell you about magnet shortages for starter motors and for wiper motors and all sorts of different things that they encountered. And so the production just wasn't there. And if production's not there, then manufacturers aren't going to put the rebates out in order to spur on sales because they have to maximize profit per unit because they're not pushing the volume because they can't produce the volume. And so you have this kind of vicious cycle where the snake is eating its own tail, where you have drops in supply, but the demand hasn't gone anywhere, but they also can't spur on demand because they know they can't fill it. And so that's why you have this vicious cycle where there's a massive shortage in the used car market. We're actually shopping for a used Tesla for my son. And I mean, heck, prices are actually going up. You know, really the best time to buy a used Tesla was back when it was peak, you know, down with Musk and, you know, let's burn down a Tesla store. That was like a short 2-week period where there was a couple of good deals out there and I should have jumped. But now prices have been, you know, steadily marching upwards. And it's just the whole market because there's just not enough cars.
yeah, all interesting points. And again, the used market, the fact that they're priced out of the new market. So but they have to get something, so they have to go and scoop up the used inventory, and it's
Or
very
they use Uber. And I've had plenty of people that tell me that they're spending anywhere from 600 bucks a month to I had one person who spends 1,500 bucks a month on Uber. So there's a lot of people out there. And I did not realize that the used car price, the average used car price, it got so. Thanks, Jonathan, for giving me that info. That's just
yeah.
man, that damn near made me fall out of my chair.
Me
So
too.
when you add all those inputs in, it's no wonder I'm seeing so many damn people who are using Uber for their daily transportation because they can't even afford a hoopty.
Yeah, I mean JC. I literally that's why it took me so long because I was so shocked. I actually checked two different sources to make sure that those numbers because it just seems like it's absolutely insane. Like no wonder. So yeah, I'm actually going to change my stance a little. If Tesla even gets this below 40,000, I think that the market will react very positively to that because again, if they get between 35 and 40, that's well below the national average. And like Omar pointed out, the lower that they get it right around that $35,000 mark. You're talking 30% below the average. So
And Josh, the fact that you mentioned that the Toyota RAV4 is like mid 40s, that
Yeah, the plug-in
flabbergasted me.
hybrid.
That
Yeah,
just
that's
because
the
I've
plug-in hybrid.
yeah, I've seen one of those plenty. I mean, man, talk about a poster child for inflation because there's nothing about that screams 45,000 to me.
So, two things to add to this. Tesla had to change the way they source their batteries because of the IRA in order to meet, their demands. And now that the IRA is gone, they don't have to do that, and they could get more, batteries from China to meet a lot of this stuff. And then on top of that, the other OEM, the other manufacturers have like capitulated on their EV plans and have like reduced what they're planning to do. So there is an overproduction of an oversupply of batteries, and Tesla could eat that up.
Eddie, those are some great points. Very good points. Yeah, wow. Apparently I live in a very small Tesla bubble, apparently, because I had no idea. I'm actually like looking at what some of these other manufacturers are charging for cars, and holy crap, my Tesla feels like such a bargain. Both of them. Both I knew what the truck market I already knew what the truck market was doing because I knew I was going to be acquiring a truck soon. But and wow, just these cars don't drive themselves. Like they don't even have the ability. No matter how much money you throw at them, they don't like. Wow, Smokey, go ahead.
I've long said supply and demand. You can also look at Panasonic as building batteries for Teslas right there. They're ramping it. It's coming.
Yeah, so according to Edmunds, 20% of new car loans now have monthly payments above $1,000 a month in the United States. That used to be rent.
There you
That's a
go.
I mean, hell, that
Omar.
used to
That's
be
a
your mortgage.
mortgage. That's
Yeah,
that's a mortgage where
that's a
I live.
mortgage in Houston.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a mortgage in Houston.
in a lot of part of the countries it is. Yeah, so I mean, it's just gotten crazy, and 22% of borrowers are now opting for an 84-month loan that gets paid off over 7 years. People used to do maybe 5 or 6, maybe 3 even. Um, so now they're kinda stuck in this car for, the better part of a decade, right? They've got this enormous monthly payment. Um, it's not a pretty situation for the American consumer. I mean, if you're spending, uh, $900 a month on Uber, in some ways it is probably actually saving you money compared to $1,000 a month car payment, $250 a month insurance, $1,000 a year tires, $200 a year of parking tickets, $300 a year of parking garage fees, so on and so forth.
Well, that's also why there's another report that says that people are keeping their used cars longer, and that the new car purchases haven't been as high as the previous years. And so there's been like a huge push in used cars, and those cars are going to go, at some point, and it's not like they're going to last forever. And so, yeah, there should be, when the interest rate goes down, there should be a surge of, new car buyers at some point.
So I spent a long time selling used cars, ran a used car department. And one of the very important roles that used cars fill, where depreciation of used cars is so important, is that it allows lower income people to afford transportation. And so that's becoming a much bigger problem now, is that you don't have, the ability to go out there and buy a car for 3 grand, 4 grand, 5 grand. You used to be able to buy, like, even under 10 grand, you could get a half decent car.
Yeah, hoopty.
That $10,000 car now is, yeah, but it's like, okay, maybe you need a little, like, spit shine, a little elbow grease, whatever, to fix it up, get it certified back on the road. But now what was 10 grand is now 20 grand. And so there's a big portion of the population that's really not being served. And like whoever the previous speaker was, I think it was Eddie, mentioned, if those people continue, who have the older car, and they just keep it instead of trading in on something newer, and kind of keeping the cycle going, there's a whole segment of the population that's just going to be without transportation. And because of that demand, that again is the snake eating its tail, where you're driving up demand. So there's like a huge hole in the market, and manufacturers need to get back to getting good incentives out there. We need interest rates to come down. I think fundamentally that is the biggest problem, is because we're carrying so much debt, automotive debt as a nation. If we can get the rates down, then affordability comes down, those monthly payments come down, and the cycle kind of softens up for everybody.
I mean, robotaxi can't come quick enough now. The entire mission,
Yeah.
like the entire mission that Tesla is doing, the whole mission, like we need it now. It's not a matter of, oh, this will be nice. It's actually a necessity at this
Yes.
point.
Well, what Omar was saying, that whole list of things, cost of parking, heck, even when you buy a condo and you're paying an extra 40 grand for a parking spot, and all these other costs associated with owning a vehicle, yeah, it just makes me even more bullish on the case for robotaxi.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a large unserved portion of the market here. Everybody's really focusing on well, how do I get the new car buyers to buy my car? But what few automakers are asking is, how do I sell a new car to the guy who isn't in the new car market, who's probably pissed off every day when they go to work and their fucking car won't start? They've learned they have to kick it in a certain place to get it to go. The gear shifter fell off, so they have some chopsticks from a Chinese restaurant that they've taped in, and they're using that to shift gears. And they would love a new car, but they just don't think they could afford it. So, yeah, what about a car that's designed for that person, you know? And it was interesting in some of the leaks. I think Green was looking through the software and he said, no tire pressure monitoring system. And you kind of think, well, that's something that I like to have. But for somebody who's an ultra low cost consumer, I mean, every time you change your tires, that's one less thing that they have to do, one less part that they have to include. If you're really trying to grind down on the lowest cost of ownership, the simplest, no frills for that entry level consumer, then maybe that's the right move for that person. I don't know. Um, but yeah, just kind of trying to tap into that tremendous unserved market. I mean, hell, there's a lot of people out there driving in the United States with hardware 3 Teslas, and they can't necessarily afford to upgrade to a hardware 4 car. I mean, hell, if I'm not really able to afford it, maybe barely able to afford it, and they come out with a standard Model 3 with cloth seats and no screen in the back, and I've got a 2018 Model 3, yeah, I'll take that car. Take my leather seats. I'll take the cloth seats in exchange for hardware 4. And the ability to potentially use unsupervised in the robotaxi network. I think that's a pretty good trade. And if you're coming from a Nissan Altima or a Corolla or something, you know, game over. And I'm also excited by what the price of these things is going to be on the used market in a few years. If they get this thing out for $35,000, I mean, you could see used ones with, a $15,000, $10,000 price tag, maybe with high mileage 5 years from now or something like that. And the used market has really actually become the affordable Tesla that's already here. You can go to Tesla's website and find an amazing deal on a used Model 3 or Y. They've even now started doing leasing on used vehicles. You can get a $200 a month payment, a $150 a month payment. I think once these things mature, these base models mature in, 3 to 5 years as their owners sell them, you're probably going to see that entry level used price for Teslas fall even lower.
Yeah, I think alternatively, just to play devil's advocate, even if they didn't have a sharp fall off in price point like depreciation, the alternative to that is that they would have an incredible lease residual. So you'd be able to pump a ton of them out. Let's say they did hold their value really strong, then you could crank out dirt cheap leases because the residual values would be able to be set so much higher. So I think it's kind of a win-win on whichever way the market goes. It's either going to be fantastic for rolling out new ones on a lease or purchasing them secondhand through Tesla or even a third party.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Rosheski's photo.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I just recently purchased a used Model Y for my wife, 26,000. So it goes really in line with what y'all were just saying. And we traded in a gas car for that with the trade-in, and then the $4,500 incentive. Monthly payments are only $175 a month.
Well, that's a
Wow.
great deal.
The
Yeah,
$25,000 Tesla's here. It's the
pretty much.
2019 Model 3.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
many miles did it have on it? Do you mind sharing?
55-ish.
So that's not a clapped out car. It's a good car.
I mean,
$60,000, 60,000
yeah,
miles on a Tesla is nothing.
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, I
That car's
purchased
going to last for a long time.
my Model 3. I purchased almost in the same mileage, and it was used a while back. And I'm at 140,000 miles, and it's running like the day I got it.
Yeah. So I mean, but I'm just looking like now. I'm like, so sorry if I seem like I'm preoccupied. I'm actually looking at like used cars now, like what, and I'm blown away by what I'm seeing. I've like this situation is actually, code red as far as what the American consumers like. I can. Omar said something. Omar, what did you say? Where a
Yeah.
whole market that's not being serviced. That market is growing.
They're the unserved
But
market.
it's growing. We're actually
Sorry, I
seeing
just want to.
an expansion of that. People are actually getting priced out of even be able when maybe they had their got into a car accident or something. They can't even afford to buy a new used car at this point. So it's a growing population, not just a stagnant. It's just crazy. Hi, Ryan with Kilowatts.
Yeah, they're using Uber.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
How's it going today?
Good. Just patiently waiting for the world to change with FSD 12, lower price Model Y, maybe the Roadster.
Yeah, it's very, very.
You're still waiting for FSD
12, you're a
12?
little late.
I guess I'm still waking up. Yeah. FSD 14.
That cryo freezing really played a toll on you there, Ryan.
I've not read the news since I woke back up.
Hey, can you tell us a bit about that gold stuff you saw on the Robotaxi? The gold graphics?
Happy to share all sides of that. Yeah, basically, part of me thought it might have been like after the 10th ride, but I counted and made sure it was like my 12th or 13th ride. I saw that within the Robotaxi, the leading line that, when you're not in autopilot is gray and narrow. When you're in autopilot or FSD, either way, is blue. It now is gold. And there's also a gold like underglow under the car, and that even applies, when the car's parked, when the car's in drive, whatever gear it's in. There's a little gold underglow, and that was obviously fascinating, surprising. I was coming back home from kind of being out and discovered that on the way home, and then the next morning I went and took another Robotaxi ride just to capture that in high quality. Caught some really cool shots of it. But yeah, the only thing that I'm just thinking of all the things I could say about it. One, it a couple days prior to that, in some of my Robotaxi rides, I had seen a software update available. Obviously, we're all anticipating FSD 14 to be coming out soon, and so seeing that several of my cars had an update available, I even asked one of my Robotaxi drivers if he wouldn't mind tapping on it, because I've been told now a couple times not to touch the touch screen in the front. And so I asked him if he would do it, and he said, "Sure, why not?" Hit the button. I was like, "Oh, I'm about to get it. I've got my camera ready." No, it doesn't do anything when you're in Robotaxi mode, like when it's actually on a trip, apparently. So didn't do anything. He tapped it. It kind of lit up and then went back to what it was. But yeah, there was updates available. Then seemingly these cars had been updated, and now we're seeing a gold leading line. So that leads me to believe that it might be FSD 14, or maybe it's just a way of communicating that they're switching to like that's a Robotaxi ride versus a full self-driving ride versus a manually driven ride. I don't know. I think we all want to believe it's FSD 14, but people have asked me about the quality of the ride, and for the 2 or maybe 3 rides I've done now, I haven't noticed. I mean, again, the first ride was my longest ride of those, and I was, out drinking with friends, so I don't know if I could give my utmost confident review. And then another one was just to capture high quality footage. It was impressive. I went down the most crooked street in San Francisco, which is not Lombard Street, it's Vermont Street, and it handled it perfectly. It was more confident than even I would be how fast it was. So I recommend checking out that video. It's almost exactly 1 minute top to bottom of a very, very windy street like Lombard Street. And then I think finally the last thing I want to say about, just because I don't know how many people have even noticed this, and it took me a while to even notice this, the line is also just slightly more narrow. So when you're driving without FSD turned on, you've got a gray, narrow line. of one human standing in front of the car. When you're in FSD, it's blue and it's the entire width of the car. The yellow line actually does subdivide that distance. It's somewhere between about one person width and the car width. Not that that probably matters at all, but it's just another difference given autopilot back in the day, and honestly maybe even still used to be two blue lines on the outside sides of the car to kind of show what like the basically like lane lines. This is now somewhere else, something that we've not seen before. So it's obviously intentional, and it may signal something significant. This might be the least interesting conversation we've had all month, or will have had all month, depending on what the next couple of days reveal.
Do you think it's exclusive to the robotaxi potentially, just to make it a little bit more gold? I mean, I had posted about a week or two ago that they, at least here in Austin, all the robotaxis have gold RGB lighting on the interior light bars now, on the ambient lighting. So do you think it's just theming now?
I had not noticed your tweet about that, and post about that. I think that you're probably right, especially since again we've seen the 1010 event was kind of the first intro to the gold with CyberCat.
Hey Ryan, I think you might have rugged.
And
Yeah.
can you guys hear me again?
I can hear it. Just yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, that was a Rosh Minimal Duck. He gave me a call. But yeah, basically, yes, I think that the gold is probably something they're using to signify robotaxi rides. And my guess is that when it's not on robotaxi rides, we would see like a blue line when it's like manually driven, or when you're still supervised driving. So I think we'll probably hypothetically get gold in our cars when it's unsupervised. Is my guess. Is basically how they're signaling it. The last thing I want to say about this is I did, as a result of all this, also watch a robotaxi drive away, and I filmed that as well. It's one of the videos on my profile. That yes, you can watch as the robotaxi drives away, and the screen, like for example, the controls icon when you're in a robotaxi, the bottom left corner, that's normally a car icon where you get to all your settings. That icon goes away. That icon goes away when it's in a robotaxi ride with a passenger. As the car shifted back into drive, right before it shifted back into drive at the end of my trip, that icon comes back. Some of the other screen controls come back. And so, yeah, I thought maybe it would switch back to blue. The car did drive away autonomously and it was still gold. So I don't know, again, what that necessarily means, but that was just another thing I was looking for. Oh, wait, do they switch from gold to blue? This time it just seems gold is robotaxi.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Of course. And so, yeah, I've not, I think the interesting thing there is you specifically had the RGB light was gold and nothing else. Like the screen, I've not heard anyone in Austin saying that the screen has the gold leading line. But you guys have the gold interior line, which is even more confusing.
Yeah, I'm going to probably take a robotaxi ride tonight, definitely this week. Do some videos just to kind of compare from a few weeks ago. So I'll keep an eye out for that as well.
Very cool.
All very interesting. All right. Well, I don't really have much more to talk about. Does anyone else have anything that they wanted to talk about? Obviously, we were all just sitting here waiting, probably refreshing our screens or wearing the skin off of our index fingers. I know that's what I'm doing. Stalking Tesla like crazy. They'll probably put me on a warning list or something. I don't know. But I don't have anything else to talk about. Anyone else have any?
Yeah, just as like I think a great way to potentially wrap up the call might be like just the summary. So like obviously, I think we're all still, and this is why I'm mentioning it. I think we're all still expecting FSD 14 today. Part of me thinks because like they didn't mention the product unveil to be tomorrow until over the weekend, that maybe FSD 14 doesn't come today. I don't want to jinx us, but that's where my mind's going, is that maybe like 2 days of back-to-back news is good, but is one day of big news better? I don't know, but I'm not holding my breath too much for today. But I think that's also because I've right now only got any hardware 3 cars in my possession. I don't get my hardware 4 car back until just before midnight. So
I got a question for Omar. Omar, I seem to remember there's been a few times where they dropped some pretty big FSD updates just over the years at like really weird times. I remember you going out either like really early in the morning or really late at night to film FSD videos. Am I right? Am I remembering that correctly? Have they done some wonky times?
I mean, when you think about all the updates, they've probably shipped it at all kinds of times, but I don't think this is really like about the news for them. Like news may be created as a byproduct of it, but this is really about the team shipping the software when it's ready to ship. So if it's not ready to ship, then they can't ship it. If it is ready to ship, then they will ship it. And, you know, I think the news cycle around that is probably secondary for how they're thinking about it. So, y- you know, seeing them testing outside Chuck Cook's house is a good sign. We haven't seen the release notes leak. We haven't seen it go out to all Tesla employees, which typically happens at least 24 hours before it goes out to customers. So if we saw those things happen, if we saw the release notes, if we saw employees get it, I think those would be encouraging signs. It's possible they have it, but they're under an NDA, so that we get surprised. Um, but yeah, I think I feel pretty confident that within the next few days, we'll probably see at least some customers getting it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to happen today.
But is it going to be an early access first only type of thing, or do we think it's going to be a widespread drop?
I think early access only. That's my opinion. But I don't know that much.
Driving by Giga Texas right now,
I love that.
tempted to go in and take a peek.
I love that for you that you can just do that.
Oh, the flags are.
as you know, my opinion is never drive on private property. But if you can see it from public property or public accessible property, you're welcome to take a picture from a distance.
Well, I was actually reprimanded by a Tesla employee at one point for taking pictures of one of those high mount LiDAR units parked at a supercharger. And I mean, and when I pressed him on it, I'm like, listen, it is public. You guys are driving on the public roads. He's like, yeah, but we're just asking you really nicely not to take pictures. I'm like, all right, I won't. But I was like standing right next to it, got a really good close-up look at all the integrated cameras, sensors in the bumpers, and the headgear up on top. And anyways, played.
Yeah, I'll briefly touch on my thoughts on that. Are like you technically can, like I read by more so like the letter of the law, and I think people that follow Elon kind of feel that way about when he reports things. So it's like, yeah, if it's out on public roads, you're allowed to take pictures. You're totally allowed. Now, how much do you want to respect that employee, the company? That's obviously your choice at that point. So if they ask, you can be a respectful person. You can also be an asshole. And like, it really is up to you at the end of the day. If that car's driving on the road and the windows are up and your windows are up, they're not going to be able to communicate that to you. And I think, and I've talked to even for example, Ford's head of communications has even responded to this about Ford products. They said if it's on public roads, it's fair game. And I go one step further. In my mind, if it's visible from public roads, it's fair game. If you saw a really cool, McLaren, that's $1 million car. I only use let's just say, $1 million like supercar that you've never seen before. You're gonna take a picture, even if someone says, please don't share that. You're going to take a picture. Now, I do also put in a little bit of care into the license plate. If it's, especially again, if it's like a personal license plate that could reveal more about the person who is driving it. That's not what I'm trying to reveal. So I won't generally share images of personal license plates unless they're vanity plates. But the factory license plates, manufacturer license plates, to me, that is a company vehicle. and as long as I'm not capturing the photo of the person who's driving it, it's fair game. Again, you can be respectful if they stop taking pictures. That doesn't mean you can't or shouldn't upload the pictures you already took. It's just a matter of how much respect do you have for that request. And yeah, that's how I see it. And I think that's how they should see it. Now they can see it other ways, but legally speaking, you are fine to take those pictures. I say all of that, and I guess here's the little like fun I'll share for the 400 or so people in here, is that I was driving past Palo Alto like 2 weeks ago, and I saw a cyber cab driving around with a steering wheel. I got a really blurry picture of it. It was driving around in Tesla's property, and I'm now realizing, this is why I didn't really share it much before, I'm now realizing that was probably for the shareholder video that they just released that showed the cybercab driving around at the very last clip. There's a cybercab pulling up behind Optimus, and I'm like, yep, that was at the Palo Alto offices. You can see from the street that angle that they photographed, and a couple other times I've been by since, I've not seen it. So I think it might have just been like a one-time thing that they had cybercab driving around for that video shoot. So again, you can take photos. I took photos. They weren't really that good of photos. Didn't really reveal all that much, especially from the photos I captured themselves, from the distance I was. I wasn't about to go on private property to go get those photos and like prove something. That's not kind and illegal. It's trespassing. But again, I've passed by a number of times when I've seen cars going from their property onto public roads, and so once it's on a public road or once you can see it clearly from the public road, that's fair game in my opinion.
Yeah,
I would agree with him, but just keep in mind that does not form for government. Don't do that for government entities. But for commercial, I would agree with him.
Well, so help me out here. What's different with government? If I take pictures of a special plane from public roads, but it's on private property, for government, it's different?
Yeah, it is, because it could be espionage. So I do not agree with that one for government. However, for private company, I agree.
So
I think if the
that's an interesting.
government has some top secret CIA shit, they're not going to leave it in the middle of the road
No, it's not
for
about
people to
top
take
secret.
pictures of.
Not about top secret. I'm getting at more of a security standpoint. You don't want to get the lay of the land. You don't want that out there, if that makes sense.
I think I hear you, but it is kind of crazy that what you're suggesting, that if I just happen to see something that partly why I take photos of basically every car that I don't know what it is because it could be an exciting electric car. So you're saying every once in a while it might be a government vehicle.
No.
I'm
just
supposed
saying,
to know
I'm
whether or not.
agreeing with you in a commercial standpoint. I'm just saying, don't take that same mentality towards government entities, is all I'm saying.
I mean,
Alex Jones has entered the chat.
Right?
Smokey, I just disagree with you completely on this because government is actually the exact opposite. I would actually respect a private company's right to quote unquote privacy over a government facility. And
It's
the
not.
laws
It's not
very
really.
the law's just very plain and clear on this. If it's viewable from public roads, it's fair game. Like just flat out that it's just that black and white that if it's viewable from public, it's fair games. And I think that, I'm surprised that that Tesla employee actually asked Josh not to take pictures because, uh, Elon is very much by the law. Like we do things by what the law says, and if the law is wrong, we change the law. And when it comes to recording or taking pictures, when you're in public, there is no expectation of privacy. And so, whether it's a public government building, I've
Let me
seen
rephrase. Maybe it'll make more sense. Let me rephrase. Okay. So I would agree with him up until the point of like people that are casing government bases, etc., the gates and all that kind of stuff for intel gathering. Let me rephrase. Does that make sense?
I mean,
I think we're kind of getting down a rabbit hole that
yeah,
doesn't make any sense here.
yeah,
I
because
agree.
no one in their normal mind is going and
Yeah.
casing a like.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is
nobody's gonna.
there's a
Yeah, we're not
difference
talking
between
about
government
18
and
baby
commercial.
signs waiting outside. Can't. Come on, stop.
Yeah, no one's casing anything. Like
Yeah,
we're
just for reference, when I go by Palo Alto, it's for the most part I'm driving already like north or south. I'll drive past once, and then I'll drive past again on my way back. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about driving around incessantly for 4 to 6 hours at a time. I'm saying, hey, when I'm already going
And
past
even
Palo
if you
Alto, I
did
take the
that,
exit.
that's fine. And Ryan,
Yeah, I would
even if you
agree.
did that, that's fine. Believe me. Yeah. Smokey, can you stand down on that, please?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people are allowed to take pictures when they're in public. That's their right. Imagine if, you know, anytime you took a selfie, you had to check the background and make sure there was, nothing you were allowed to take a picture of. Taking a selfie would essentially be illegal. We are living in a post privacy world here. I don't think people understand. Every house has cameras on it. The fucking doorbell has a camera on it. It's recording everything. We've got satellites flying through outer space with X ray vision that can see Xi Jinping's asshole taking a shit in high definition in real time. Um, when you're in public, you kind of just have to assume you're being recorded by all these security cameras and smartphones, and now they got the fucking smart glasses. Um, you know, if you don't want something to be seen, don't bring it in public.
Can we talk about the sauna again?
wow. No, well said, Omar. Thank you for closing that discussion. Because yeah, it is what it is. But I think I'm going to end the space. It's been a weird one today. That's something's in the air maybe. I do appreciate everyone joining and all of the speakers. Um, Omar has his space for his subscribers. If you're not subscribed to Omar, I don't know what's wrong with you. You should definitely be subscribing to him because his spaces are always very interesting. They're on Sunday. We don't know what time. They vary. He just surprises everyone with his subscription spaces. Lots of very good information in there. So please subscribe to Omar and join his Sunday spaces. Obviously, I do the Monday space, and I appreciate everyone for joining. Ellie, who is no longer in here, he does the day after Wednesday, which is a Thursday space. And then Alexander, he does the Friday space. And the weekly spaces, we try to keep them around noon. So please tune into all of them. We share any new information there. And obviously, I'll shout out to Sawyer, who is doing a special space. Alexander, what time did you say that space was tomorrow?
11 p.m. for me, but that's like 5 p.m. Eastern time, I believe.
Okay. So Sawyer's gonna do a space tomorrow, 5 p.m. ish.
Yeah, 5 Eastern.
5 p.m. Eastern time. All right. So
After market close.
after the
After
market
market
closes.
close. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So definitely hope to see all of you tune into Sawyer Space tomorrow. And again,
He's going to tell us all about the more affordable Roadster.
the more photo. yes. All right. Well, it's been fun. Definitely. Thank you for joining, and I will talk to you all later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe Nation.
Thanks, Jonathan.
one's still up 25%, was up much more than that with that big news that they had. I'll leave that one for someone else, of course. And then there was a bunch of OpenAI stuff going on as well today. Outside of that, not a whole lot of just news happening, and we just kind of a slow grind to the upside over the last few hours, probably 3 to 4 hours after the morning dip, and here we are. Microsoft outperforming when I look at the Mag 7. Um, Tesla as well, up 5%. That event coming up tomorrow will be interesting for the speculation is there over there. Google also having a good day, up 2%. So Microsoft, Google, Tesla, your outperformers. Amazon up 1% today. Meta still green. Nvidia sideways. We'll go with sideways. It was down a little bit, and then it's just gone pretty much sideways since then. And yeah, I'm sure there's some other things sticking out. We'll see what everyone else is looking at. Get around to everyone on the panel. There's Scott joining us up right now. Once again, apologies for a little bit delay getting going this afternoon. A little miscommunication on who was doing the hosting role today, but here I am. I'm taking care of it. Scott, what's up? How are you?
I am doing very well today. I'm trying to like kind of contain my emotions and just treat today as just another day in the market. And I came in long AMD calls today because I like to set up last week, so it was the first time in a while that in the right play and something like that, really had a excessive move, so it was really good. I had I think I had the 172.50s for $2 or so, and actually, it was really funny. Like I think I spoke to you guys about it last week. I was in the 165s for a breakout, and then it broke out on Thursday. The 171 sold a bunch, and then on Friday it was down like $5-6, and I was like, all right, let me get out of the last piece of it. And the very last moment, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, why don't I roll these up? AMD's tricky, I'll roll them up and use some of the profits. And then today when I was on the 630 club, all of a sudden I see Nvidia start going down. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So I just hit out my shares just because I didn't know what was going on. And then I saw AMD up 25, and my options were in a different account, and I didn't even remember that I bought them. And PS, I bought them, so that was good. So that, besides a whole bunch of things, really, really good day. As far as just across the board, you could be doing a lot of different things, a lot of different ways, and be making money. I know for me, I tried buying Tesla the day after the event when they sold it down, and I lost a little, but into the close on Friday, I bought TSLL calls that really, really are pretty much up, almost 75%. I didn't expect Tesla to bounce back like this, but then after Apple bounced back 2 days after its event, I was like, you know what, let me just buy some just in case it goes fast because I'm not going to want to trade it. So that's working out. Amazon, which has been a pain. I've lost money for 2 weeks. I bought that into the close just because I kind of got stuck in it on Friday in that downdraft. And I'm like, you know what? I'll buy the 225s just in case. And this morning I just sat there because I was managing everything else. And now it's up 2, and those options are up decent money. I think I spoke to you guys last week about Serve, SERV, that I was buying it every single day. And I thought it can get to 15 and then probably towards 20. And so went to 15 today out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere, just trending nicely. BBAI is another like little one that I've been trying to accumulate and stay with. QS, I did speak to you guys about that multiple times. I've been talking about QS since like 950, since everyone on my BTF loves it. So I've been buying options. So there's just like a lot of little things going on. The one thing I get upset about is like, you turn the TV set on and the caption is, how's the AI bubble going? How's the bubble? How's the bubble? All they want to do is say the word bubble. So anyone that's not as as sophisticated as we are, that trade trends and ride sequences, it makes a normal person like scared. Oh, I don't want to buy into a bubble, And then you have Paul Tudor Jones, who has been pretty negative for a while. Again, these billionaires are always like, oh, the market's so risky. It's hard for you to be in it, and then someone say, well, what about you? Well, I'm fully invested. So it's just the narrative of the televisions and the networks are just getting worse and worse. Thank God, you have shows like this, and you have sophisticated guys that can talk and go over morning game plans and calls to keep the average investor from selling on the day that they would have loved you to when they had the government shutdown. The government shutdown day, right? We were down 30 handles. And everyone's like, what's going to go on? I'm like, well, we'll see if we hold the 8 day and the SPYs, the Qs, the S&P cash. And if we do and go green, Guess what? No one cares about the government shutdown. And that happened, and we've been going up every day since. And anyone who got out or got short because they listened to the networks rant and rave, it's pretty gross. But anyway, everyone has the same capabilities of following different individuals or learning more, not following, learning. I say my community gives me just as many good plays as I give them. But there's been so much to do and so much money to be made on every time frame. Whether you're a 401k every month investor, which you shouldn't even look because it doesn't matter, to those who play gold, on a macro level where they put 10% in their overall pie chart, or they trade gold. The GLD has been above the 8-day moving average for like a month, and that's gold, not a momentum stock, not an air meme stock. You're talking about gold. And I do think also 2 weeks ago, I was telling you guys, mark my words, and I think I made not a bold call, but I'm like, by Thanksgiving, Bitcoin's going to be 135. And here we are at 125, and it's not even October 6th. So all I'm saying is there's a lot to do. You have to be planned. You have to get up early. You have to educate yourself. You have to have multiple time frames, and you have to just try and make the right decision at the right time. And if you sell something early, you can't be in the entire move. Like I'm not in ASTS today, and that's been like my baby. And everyone's like, "Red Dog, you're not in ASTS." I'm like, "Oh, fine, guys. I can miss the last 6-7 points. It was extended. I got out of it." So these are like a lot. I'm like saying a lot of different kinds of concepts in literally 4 minutes, but these are all the things that you accumulate in your mind over 30 years that help you execute fast, that help your inner voice, that help you maneuver and drown things out. And that's all things that, those of you who've been doing this for 2 to 5 years, we try and teach you so you can learn and just help your learning curve. But overall, spies are here at 672. There's lots of, trades to do. Some things making highs, some things bouncing off moving averages, some things getting rotation, some things getting momentum, some things getting a little overdone. So do something, just don't sit. I guess that's the mantra here. And do it on multiple time frames, so this way, you could always have your feet moving.
Are there any sectors, anything really sticking out to you? Obviously, there was different news and stuff going on, but where are you finding alpha in this whenever we are gapping up, well above all the moving averages, new all-time highs, it seems like every other day?
Every week is different. I've posted the chart on Microsoft the last week and a half. My Microsoft calls were, expired worthless this morning. I posted a chart on Microsoft saying it's better to be in verse 506 because they kept tricking you at 520, 521. And then today it's at 529.70. So if anyone went out 2 weeks and had calls, they're getting paid handsomely. If anyone got worn out, they're done. So there's each week, every 2 weeks is a different hyper focus for those that look for setups. And Microsoft is a good case in point. That one finally went today and paid guys that might not still be there. The chart was still fine. It just wasn't ready. The same way we caught Tesla and it took out that 355. The 2 days prior, it drove you to drink, and it was only like a Monday or Tuesday. You can't really drink on Monday, Tuesday. I try and fasting today, by the way. So each day is different. Like I don't want to look at Amazon anymore, but I'm like, you know what? I'll just have some 225s on just in case it wants to wake up. It's fine. I know a lot of us are trying to play this 260 breakout trade in Apple, and Apple went from red to green today. There was a nice trade in the morning, but now it's sat out today. So I'm trying not to overtrade it. I just added a tiny bit more 260 calls because if it gets through 260, there'll be a money trade. If it doesn't, I don't want to overtrade it. So there's lots of things that are in the go-to list that have either an A, B, or C setup, and you just have to keep rotating them up and down based on how they look. Like last week coming in, NVIDIA was like my hyper focus. For to get through 184.50, you could see 191. I had 3 sets of calls on, took off 2/3 of it, and now I'm losing a little bit in the last third, but I don't care because obviously I had AMD, which was a monster. But now today I'm like, you know what? NVIDIA is not going to be something that's going to pay you, for the next few days. You have to figure out if it's going to even just hold 183 and rebuild. So every few days you just have to keep moving around and keep looking for where the rubber match spot is, where the good technical buy areas are, and add cash flow if you do that, or just kind of try and let some of your winners run and not be so worried about whether this is a bubble or not. And that's what a tier system does for you, because you can take trades. You're allowed to like book some profits, stick with some, and leave 25% on, to let run. And if it doesn't work and something happens, you made money on the other 75%.
Yeah, some great thoughts there, Scott. Let's go around. And hit some of the panel here to see if they have anything interesting to throw at us. Logical. You and Scott go back and forth pretty often. I want to bring you into the conversation next. See what you're seeing out there in these markets. Anything sticking out to you, news wise, thematic wise, sector wise?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize that AMD was probably, the craziest move today. Obviously semis tech, they're going to continue to work. Names like DigitalOcean, Snowflake are definitely on my radar. I know Stock Talk talks about them. I actually, um, fortunately, got out of DigitalOcean around the same time I dropped a lot of tech exposure. I just and I'm not like underweight the market. I'm actually about 135% long or so still, but most of my exposure is now in biotechs. I've just been shifting my exposure because I'm a fundamental first investor, and I think the narratives, the themes make a ton of sense on the tech side, but the valuations are clearly stretched. Now that doesn't matter, especially if we're in this kind of bubbly period, where valuations can go from high and overvalued to bubbly. So I think that's probably going to be the most fun part of the bull market. Half the bull market gains are made in the last one third. That's when things go real vertical. I think that's what we're seeing right now. And whether that ends up being, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can see this as being something sustainable from a stock price movement perspective. I think that it can last longer than I will appreciate, which is totally fair. But yeah, I mean, from a risk reward standpoint, it just doesn't feel like the upside versus downside, makes a ton of sense to me, which is why I've been rotating basically all of my exposure into biotechs. I think that these names are going to continue to work. I think that the valuations that they're coming off are extremely low. That means that they're still undervalued. We're not even talking about fair valuation. We're not talking about overvaluation. We're not talking about bubbly valuations. I mean, we're like in the bottom quartile of valuations from a fundamental perspective. And then you look at all the different charts, and you can just see that these things are bombed out. They're bottomed out. And hopefully now they're heading into uptrends. I posted a thread over the weekend for a bunch of the bios in my portfolio, and looking at the weekly charts, I post that for subs every week, but I decided to post it this week for Twitter. And you just look at these charts and they look absolutely beautiful. And a lot of them are just now heading from like, stage 4 downtrends into stage 1 base breakouts to the upside. So, I think what I've been kind of calling out is this is the beginning of a biotech bull market. And, I was early to that thesis. I always say that, but not wrong. And that continues to be proving me right every single day. I mean, my portfolio hit 150% year to date last week. 5 days later, it is up 192%. So, in just a matter of a few days, and I'm sure a lot of people are printing money, especially in the tech sector. So it's not just bios, but I think that the move in the bios is more sustainable. So that's where I'm focused. I do regret having cut a lot of my tech exposure early, but I did just replace equity exposure with equity exposure. So it's not like I'm underexposed to the market. I'm just exposed now more so to other parts of the market. So yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, we're in a very big bull market. You want to have equity exposure. Um, and I'm just hoping that I'm going to try to make like a pretty bold call here. Yeah, obviously this tech run can keep going. They're still selling puts, they're still buying calls. Can go a lot longer than I appreciate, like I said. But um, if you think back to 2021 and 2022, now I don't think we're at 2021 silly levels, but it would be interesting if we had, there are times when, again, thinking back to the 2022 bear market, basically everything died except um, commodities and energy. And if let's say the downside risks to the economy are, maybe AI capex, ROI isn't there, that leads to weakening consumers, or whatever, they have to cut law. Maybe a lot of these. Think about like the tech sector, right? They're a big time employer and high net. Okay, so this is the thesis. The tech companies, white collar jobs, those are the employees that are making a lot of money right now. They're driving a ton of the consumer spending. If the ROI on the capex and tech companies don't pan out, then they're going to have to do the year of efficiency like Meta did in 22. If that happens, then it could be kind of like the upper quartile consumers who are spending the most that end up with potential job losses. Again, these are all very speculative, but my point is just to say that maybe that's something that could potentially lead to a bear market when the time comes. Is not seeing that ROI and it has a trickle effect. And now thinking about if we have a weaker economy and weaker consumer, then I want to be exposed to not the consumer, which is why I like biotech, because I think it'll continue to do well. And these companies are bombed out, valuations look good, and yeah, they're not reliant on a strong economy. In fact, they do better with a weaker economy because interest rates go down and there's a lot more investment into the sector, and they have a lot more resilient cash flows. And progressing clinical trials has nothing to do with the economy really. So other than being able to fund them, but yeah, so I'm sticking to my big bet. It's paying off so far. I'm happy to deal with this rotation.
Well,
And yeah, go on.
I just want to say something about that because it's been great because we started doing these, these 3 o'clock Monday shows well before the biotechs actually started to wake up. And I remember you saying you're accumulating, you're a fundamental guy. Like there's so much value here. And I'm like, well, I'm a technical guy. It's been in a multi-year bear market, a lot of false starts. And finally, when the fundamentals kind of meet up with the technicals, that's when it's powerful. And if you look right on June 2nd, when when you told me it was like the lazy trade, which it was, because you probably did a ton better. When the XBI got above 83 and broke the downtrend, that was the spot that said, okay, now your accumulation can turn into a big ad because now technicals lined up, and then it went sideways above that downtrend, held the moving averages, and then started like in July, really, its move of higher lows and higher highs all the way up to where it is right now. So it's, when you're a market participant, you want to, do your fundamental work and you make real money by accumulating in things you believe in and do your homework on. If you don't do your homework on and so much, but you do your technicals, you probably couldn't have accumulated a huge position in bios, but you could have got involved in the sector when the sector got better, and that's the job of a technician. And that happened on June 3rd, and then kind of again right around July when it just actually really ignited on August 12th. August 12th was the day that the bios, when the XBI was 86, turned into a momentum trade just as good as Nvidia, and sectors do that. So that's our job. If you need alpha and you're trading for alpha and you're trading to get paid now for the fourth quarter or for October, that's what you have to find. You have to find what's next, what's going to trigger, what's been building, what's tired, where things are going. As far as whether this is a bubble, you know what? I've taken risk down a few times, and so far since May, the spies have not been able to stay below the 21-day for more than a day. So finally, when things get faulty and we get a shooting star top and we sell an event, and then all of a sudden we get below the 21-day, guess what? Red Dog's active account and swing account will be in a lot of cash. I'll still be putting money in my 401k every month. I'm only 53. I'll have my blood in the street accounts in full cash. So if we do get that bear market of 2022, which sucked, I remember that, or we get a move down like the pandemic or a move down like the financial crisis, which you can't see yet, you want to have a blood in the street account, or a high level of cash where you could start putting money to work when you're 6-7% off the highs. So that's why you need multiple time frames. But for now, the trend is
Yeah.
strong and everything's there. Listen, you could do it 2 years, lots of ways to do it, and you did it fantastic. You had the wherewithal. Not a lot of people could stick with a group and really get to know them and really find where the alpha is, and then be able to stick around for what's been a tremendous move from June 3rd all the way into where we are now. Like the XBI is 104. By the way, we are up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the 8th day for the XBI. Like if I were just talking to my community, I'd be like, if someone's like, can I buy the bios here? I'd be like, you're out of your mind. 8 up days. We're extended from the 8th day. This is not an entry in the XBI if you haven't been in it since August 13th or since June 3rd. So this is the day that if you love your positions or you love it, maybe you sell some premium higher, you write some covered calls, whatever it is. Just saying technically, if I was managing a hedge fund that was in XBI, focused on the bios, I would be on the PM right now. At this point, the time to have added and leveraged was June 3rd. The time to get really frisky was August 12th. Now it's the time you probably just want to, keep some positions you love, sell some premium above, hedge a few things, and then, let it digest a little bit.
I want to go to Mike in a second because I see his hand up. I just want to rebuttal, or not rebuttal, but comment on a couple of points there. One, think about, I know you're a technician. Look at the XPI on a weekly. It's the first time it's sustainably above the 200 week in a long time. And the last time it did that was like 10 plus years ago, and it basically went on a decade long bull market. So I hear you though. I mean, obviously
Yeah,
you're
yeah, no,
talking
I
about from
see
a
it. I see the
day-to-day trading
weekly.
aspect.
You
Yeah.
look like this is going to be 120 before it takes a breath, and that's when it broke down in the weekly
Yeah.
around November 22nd, 2021. This definitely room, like even the IWM. That's
Yeah.
what we're telling people too. Like, look at the 5-year chart of the small caps. The 5-year chart has
Yep.
been a 5-year accumulation. So if you're starting to
Yep.
fade this market and short it because you think it's a bubble, and this is gives you another 3 to 6 months, and you get the blow off move, you A, hate the world because you're going to be short, and B, the opportunity cost of not catching the moves in some of the friskiest names is going to also drive you crazy. So I see it. I get it 100%. You know, like that. The
Yeah.
weekly chart
Yeah.
is saying higher there.
Yeah,
And not everyone
absolutely.
could
And
be
you can
not
see
everyone
if
could be so cute too. Not everyone, once you get out, like I got out of ASTS, if that thing doesn't pull in, I probably won't be able to buy it again. So
I'm
sometimes
the same way. Yeah, I'm the same way on my tech stocks. Like I dump them and I'm like, oh, they just went higher, and I'm like, I'm not gonna chase it here. So I totally hear that too. And you know, the 200 week, for example, on XBI, it failed multiple times in the last year. And so I just feel like this is maybe a little bit of a change of character, that it has some strength, and you're seeing the pieces of the actual sector from a fundamentals case, like you're seeing buyouts left and right. I mean, we're talking
yeah.
billions of dollars of buyouts. What happens when a $7 billion buyout happens? All those hedge funds that are sitting in that stock have $7 billion to reallocate elsewhere, and that's just money going recycling back into the sector. So I think they're doing the bidding for us, which is what's really giving us a tailwind. Yeah, and just one last thought, and go to Mike. Just on the market, I mean, these stocks, every stock is just going up. My account's going up 5 to 7% a day for the last week. I mean, is that healthy? I mean, it's healthy for me. I love that, but
But by
let's
the
be
way, that's
real.
not
That's not
true. That
sustainable.
that's not true. Like Meta just pulled in 100 points in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, true.
I'm saying it's up 60
No,
cents. Apple's down $1.50. Like Microsoft's done nothing. So you still have to like be very specific in what you're trading and how you're trading it based on if you trade for a living. So not every stock is made equal. Like we were just even talking today. Like as good as this bull market's been, it's not that forgiving. If you've been buying Meta for a week and a half, you missed a lot of stuff, and today it finally reversed. So maybe there's a bottom tail. If you've been just stuck on Amazon, versus it just being one of your 25 positions, you've been knocking your head against the wall. So it's definitely, there's a lot going on, but they're not giving money away on trees here. You still have to do a lot of work.
agreed. Yeah, let's go to Mike.
Hey guys, how are you?
What up, Michael?
Scott? So I thought I'd add some color. So for me, this market's becoming a little bit like Groundhog Day the last couple of weeks. We're constantly pressing against this ascending channel, the top of it on the SPY for the last 2 weeks, right? We pull off of it, but now for the last 4 sessions, we've been banging our head against it again. We briefly break above it, we can't hold it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just showing that there's validity to the top of the channel, right? Which is good to see. But this market is, I think you want to piggyback on what you said, Scott, it's constantly giving different names to trade. I actually caught some of Microsoft today, and though I kept half my calls, they came down, they stopped me out, and then they turned around and ripped about 3 hours later. I was like, yeah, it sounds about right for this market after I sold them. But I mean, today Microsoft in play. I mean, AMD obviously godlike move. I bought Nvidia November 210 calls into the blood this morning because I just don't think it's going to stay down for long. This is not an Nvidia killer. It's just validation that AMD now has skin in the game in AI. But to your point, it's they're rotating names around. They're staying with this AI trade, and there was your first little parting shot of problems on Friday afternoon. I don't know if you were trading. Remember that mid-afternoon sell-off on volume? That was
That was
what I was.
that was a loose and wide sell-off. That wasn't easy,
Well, what I was told by a friend who works for a large fund, can't mention who they are, that Piper dumped 19,000 contracts, futures contracts into that. That was who caused it. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure why they chose to do it there and then on that day, if it's true, right? I mean, I always take everything with a grain of salt, right? This person to me has been very good over the years with stuff like this. So I'm like, well, it's a little frothy up here, and everybody wants to pull back. But they bought everything right back here, and I mean, it's just market. Nobody wants to sell.
Well, here's
So you
the
got to
thing
look for
on that
those
pullback.
things.
Kind of made a little sense because mega cap tech was so weak, and we weren't used to like the market being up so much, and it was all these other names. So when you saw like Tesla down so much, and you saw Amazon down so much, and you saw Meta, like all of a sudden everyone like he caused that like rollover cascade But then I remember like right around 3:15, I'm looking, I'm like, well, ACHR didn't pull in a penny, JOBY didn't pull in a penny. Like there were some names that just didn't pull in. It was
Well,
mega cap tech, and it was like you said, it probably was a sell program, and then things came back pretty much fine.
and well, that's where they've been hiding, right? You had IREN running, IONQ
Yeah.
running, you had Open with a nice run today. All these ONDS, BKSY, which I bought back at 16. Been in and out of this name. I just sold half of it up here at 30. Because that's what I do. And people are like, my members like, why are you selling it here? I'm like, because it's breaking out, but you take some because it's a small cap. It's kind of pre-revenue. It's not pre-revenue, but it's losing a lot of money. So, you don't just sit in stuff like
I will
that,
say
not
this,
unless you have conviction.
yeah, I'm saying if you want to, if like just because I have to leave soon, I'll give a few names. Like I still think like, some of these low quality like momentum names like BBAI, it's trading here, it's up 7.5%. That chart still looks good. I could see that being $9-10 this week. In stock and options. Rumble, for those of you, it's been a horrible stock. It woke up on Friday. You have a gap that's against that's 805, so that's a new setup that I haven't been in a month. So I bought some rum versus that $8. It breaks 8, then it's not as strong and it'll probably be choppier. That's I think a decent setup for this week. JD has been great in the Chinese names, but I did add a little bit on the dip there. I think that maybe I could see 38 or so. And I'm just trying to think setups. I've been buying more TEM calls. I do think at some point TEMAI is going to break above 100 and give you a little bit of that MBIS type move. I had some from last week for this Friday into this morning's weakness. I bought some for next Friday to just give myself a little bit more room. So I've been accumulating MSOS still, which is the cannabis group, and it's looks pretty decent. I think this time the narrative is a little bit more clear, and there really is a big business behind it, and technicals are getting better. So I accumulated into the $5 area. I think that could be 6 and change in the next few weeks. So those are some names that people are actually trading around and look just fine. Like remember last week I was telling you I was buying ACHR options, UMAC options. I've been Joby. The aviation stocks have been unbelievable. But I just don't want to talk about all past tense things. I like to give things I feel like could still make you money this week. And maybe Amazon sees 225 or 224ish. That's where it failed, for a trade, but it shouldn't be a focus. And then maybe Apple, that will frustrate enough people, kind of the way Microsoft did before it took out 521 and then finally take out 260. So make sure you have a lot of this stuff on your radar.
Can you explain to me how they keep letting it get like it got 90 cents from the all-time high on Friday and they ripped the thing down? They're like, no, you can't have it. It's like, come on, guys, let it go.
Well, they did that with NVIDIA. That first piece of news, the first time it went to 184.50 like a week or so ago, wasn't ready. And then after a little bit of accumulation, when it finally went through 184.50, we had that move to 191. So there's like a time and place when they want it to go, I guess, for whoever they is. It's not me. I'm just, we're just we're the jockeys. The horses run. You got